Welcome to The Radiant Leader. I am Erin Johnson Gerkman. In this episode, From Head to Heart, the journey of embodied leadership, we're exploring what it truly means to live and lead from the wisdom of the body. We'll talk about embodiment, what it feels like, how to tell when you're in your head versus when you're in your heart, and why this shift can be such a transformational doorway in leadership and in life. Today, I am honored to be joined by someone who has been both a coach and a mentor in my own journey, Micole Noble. Micole is the founder of Micole Noble LLC, where she guides leaders and their teams to disrupt old models and evolve through conscious leadership, emotional intelligence, and evidence-based coaching that fuels both performance and well-being. With over 15 years as a life coach, coach mentor, retreat curator, and corporate wellness strategist, Micole helps high achievers master mindset, navigate burnout, and lead with presence. Her work blends both neuroscience, positive psychology, and ancient wisdom to spark sustainable transformation. Micole is not just after a quick fix. Micole is ICF certified, NBHWC certified, that's National Board for Health and Wellbeing Coaches. She's a master educator and conscious leadership advisor and on the faculty for Chopra Global and Gaja Collective. Micole, I know that you have some beautiful wisdom to share with us today and some exciting news and new information about your own work. So we'll for sure make space for that. Together, we'll explore how the practice of presence reconnects us to our natural rhythm, moving from head to heart, from thought to feeling, and from effort to ease. I can't think of a better co-host today for this topic than Micole. Before we begin, I always like to start our podcast container. It's the space we hold together here on The Radiant Leader. So, as we're together today, this is a space of curiosity and growth, free from judgment and evaluation. Take what resonates with you and gently release what doesn't. We'll embody the values of radiant leadership: presence, growth, authenticity, compassion, health and well-being, and growth. And as you listen today, notice what happens in your body. Sensations, emotions, images, subtle shifts in energy. Something inside talking to you. That awareness is the beginning of embodiment. And as always, I encourage you to embrace the support of coaches, therapists, and others who hold life with us. They help us grow, ground, and expand. They're with us in our foundation. So as we begin, I love to ask a few grounding questions, a way to get to know our guests and hear how radiant practices look in real life, knowing that they are unique to each of us. Micole, welcome again.
Thank you.
What are the consistent practices that keep you heart-centered, grounded, and nourished?
Mm. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is daily meditation. Twice a day, every day, no matter what. Because it truly is that opportunity to connect to the self and to allow our body's time, to get back into homeostasis. So meditation is healing physically, and it's also that opportunity to go within and connect to that divine intelligence within all of us. And the second thing I would say is movement, exercise, breath, yoga. It can look a lot of different ways. Getting out in the day for a walk, I have a shake plate here in my office. Sometimes the best I can do is hop on that thing for 10 minutes a day. Okay, but
You
if
have
you
a
look at
what in your office?
a shake plate,
What is that?
well, it's for circulation, and you stand on it and it literally shakes your body because our lymphatic system is the only system in the body that doesn't have a pump.
Mhm.
So much like getting on a rebounder, or it just
Mhm.
increases circulation all over the body, and it's easy to just hop on there and stand there for 10 minutes and scroll and do whatever else you would do normally anyway. So yeah, so any kind of movement, because it's all about circulating and not having things coagulate and get stuck in the body. So movement, well, first meditation, then movement. And I would say the third thing is noticing my thoughts,
Mm.
just having an awareness of what I'm thinking or the thought I had that preceded a feeling I'm having in the moment, having that be a daily practice to manage my thinking.
All right, meditation, movement, and noticing your thoughts. I have this beautiful visual of you using a shake plate
It's
while
a great
you're.
invention. I love
Mhm.
it. I highly recommend it.
It was super great. Okay, thank you for sharing those with us. I know for me, in the last episode, I mentioned that I also have a morning practice. And what I love about this is that you are the one who helped guide me into my morning practice. So if you remember, I set a practice that I was going to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning so that I could get all my morning practices done before my day started. And that was an example of a really small thing that has a really big shift. And I remember texting you like day one, day two, day three. I'm falling asleep in my meditations. Right. It's like I'm falling asleep. It took a while for me to be able to get to get that in a rhythm so that I also could be in my morning practices that include things like meditation and just being able to um, sit with my vision board and be able to um, get my own process started in the day before I'm engaging with anyone else's processes so that I can feel like I have what I need in my body to get started and feel nourished and radiant. So, for our next question, like as we both are describing kind of our morning practices, how do you how do you sense your radiant rhythm throughout the day or the week? So, what's your flow that helps keep you restored and revitalized and connected outside of that in a morning practice?
Yeah. Well, I love what you said about creating the habit to have that morning routine. It sets us up for the day. They say your day starts actually the night before.
Mm.
So that's also something my coach, got me into, was really looking at my next day. So when I wake up in the morning, it's clear what my day will look like. And also every Sunday, I look at the whole week. So I think these habits, these ways of being where we deliberately create our days, weeks, months, even the years. There's, an art to living deliberately like that versus just being at the effect. And I think I got into the habit, like I helped you to create that habit of your morning routine a couple of years ago now. I started following that um, the 5 a.m. club. So getting up at 5 a.m. so that truly you feel
Mm.
like you have accomplished everything before 9 a.m. And there's a real sense of accomplishment to that I noticed, and that kept me going with that. Now, do I get up every day now at 5 a.m.? Not necessarily. I am up though early every day. And that's just become a way for me to sort of gauge, my energy, notice in the morning just how I'm feeling. What am I excited about? What am I looking forward to? That because since I already know what my day is going to look like, I can sort of start to create that in the moment. So I think really that getting into that rhythm has really worked.
Mm. I remember when you started the 5 a.m. club, it was when I was starting my 6 a.m. club, and you're like, you could get up with me at 5. And I was like, no.
And that's okay, right? It's about finding what works for us and telling the truth about what we're committed to.
Yes, and I love the just the note on like I love two things about that. One is I recognized for myself also that the nighttime routine was so important for my morning routine. Like I had to back up, what time am I going to sleep so that I get enough sleep and feeling refreshed? And then what am I doing at night so that I'm able to wind down in enough time? And I found like my morning routine was actually dependent on my night routine. So it's interesting in how that all just works together.
Yeah, and it reminds me really in Ayurveda to have, it's recommended to have a morning routine, an evening routine.
Mhm.
And truly with Ayurveda, if we did all of the things that are recommended, we would never leave the house. There's just so many things you could do. But like you said, to take what resonates and leave the rest. This isn't about overwhelming ourselves and thinking I've got to do all these things and the night before, and then I've got to do all these things in the morning. Like that just creates more stress. So it's really again experimenting, trying on the things that you'd like to integrate. And if it doesn't work, right, you can throw it out. You can add different things in later too. So yeah, it's just so important to sort of experiment with it.
Yeah, so much. And I know last week we also talked about the personal balance of structure and spaciousness. What does that look like for you as you are in your day, your week, your month?
Well, I am a recovering type A, and I'm creating newly, actually, a type A recovery revolution. So that's coming with my new work that we talked about. But
Mhm.
honoring that we as humans actually thrive on routine. So it starts as babies, to have this routine, these routines that we actually perform and do so much better. And yet noticing where we resist, routine and like, oh, I need to spice it up. And, I'm kidding because I get bored. So then I'm like, oh, I got to change it up. And then every time I change it up, I'm like, well, why did I do that? I need to go back to what I was doing before. So again, to just have some lightness
Mhm.
around it, to be willing to experiment, get curious with yourself. Again, this isn't about getting it perfect. And I spent many, many years trying to, perfect these things. And it's let go of the pressure. Just trust that you will find your groove. And yeah, I think for me, I notice that structure is important and routine, and then also allowing space in my calendar, allowing looking at my month and saying, okay, what are the days I'm going to take off, or what's a weekend away that I can plan
Mhm.
ahead. So, and then retreat, it's
Mhm.
why I incorporated retreats because I encourage my clients to get out of your own environment, really to get a different perspective. And retreat has been a ritual that's been around forever, right? Religions
Yes.
and things have done it forever. So these are rituals, these are ancient tools that we can sort of look to support us. So whatever that looks like for you, to have a day a week that you just get some downtime. If you want to Netflix and chill all day, then do that, right? Sans judgment. Because that's the other thing. It's, oh, I allowed myself this day and then I'm going to feel bad about it. No, that takes the whole effect out, right? It's like eating perfectly. If I'm going to eat a cheeseburger, I'm going to enjoy that cheeseburger because, right, it doesn't make sense to beat myself up for it. So yeah, so I think that is a skill. I think to
Mm.
allow ourselves to have discipline, have these things we're committed to, but then also be easy on ourselves when needed.
Yeah, I love the ease of that. And also, just if you're going to eat a cheeseburger, let it nourish you in the moment, let it just fill you with joy, and then let it release and let it go.
Exactly. Yes.
So so great. And I know for me on the just the level of structure and spaciousness, I've been working on right now I've been working on a really present practice to be able to say, I've got my week planned and know like each day, what's the most important things within the day. And then I am also working on scheduling spaciousness in my calendar. If that is 30 minutes or if it is a half a day, it's whatever I have. And then what am I going to do during that time? But then I check in each day, and each day I can say, what does the day look like now? Has it shifted or adjusted? And then I'm trying to be then even more present in the moment to say, I have 30 minutes right now. What do I most need? What's most important to me? Because that could be, I need to get something done, or it could be, I'm going to take some chocolate out into the sunshine, or it could be that I need some quiet or an extra like short meditation. I can assess, I can just kind of check in with myself, with my body, and say, what do I most need in this 30-minute window, this 5-minute window, 10-minute window, or in this half a day? Like, what's going to serve me the best? And I've been playing around with that, and it feels like as I'm getting in the rhythm of just kind of checking in with my plan for the day, and then also in the moment, um, it shifts. But when I'm listening, I feel like I can get some sense of connection on what's most helpful and what I need to do.
Well, I think what you're pointing to is that balance between having some structure, having a plan for our day, right? Or having taken the time to put things in our calendar, and those are, I say, in our calendars where we make promises and agreements with ourselves about
Mm,
what our intentions are. And life happens at the same time, right? So clients cancel, different things happen, and I'm always amazed, that the days that those types of things happen are when I needed that extra space for,
mhm,
and like you said, to not have everything so scheduled to where you can check in with yourself and say, what would be most nourishing for me right now in this moment? So I hear you taking that time, because that's also something we can miss when we are too scheduled and too
mhm.
rigid with our schedules, right? Is that time to even know, is this even nourishing me at the moment? I said I wanted to do it, and I'm keeping my word to me, and that's what's most important. But is it, sometimes it's allowing for that flexibility too.
Yeah, that's super great. I may be like, hey, I have 5 minutes, and what I really need right now is a connection to someone. I'm gonna go find the person that to find the person that I'm supposed to be connecting with right now. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's like
absolutely.
what we need internally. Sometimes that may be connection that we're most wanting, process or talk through something. Yeah. Okay. The last of our reflection questions to get started. This one is my favorite for you. You read books for breakfast. It's one of my favorite things about you. Most of us, we have them, we hold them, we collect them, but we don't read them all. You read. So, as I feel like my digital library is overflowing with abundance, what is your secret in being able to read books for breakfast?
Well, I've always been a bit of a bookworm, admittedly. Started as a child, and I was valedictorian of my eighth grade class, so I am a nerd at heart. So I love books. I just really do love books. And now, as I've gotten older, I used to beat myself up for having like 3 books going at once. But now I was like, again, going back to what's the most nourishing for me in this moment. Sometimes if I start a book and then I realize, it's not feeling nourishing to me. Maybe there's something else that I'm feeling more drawn to. So allowing myself that
Mhm.
flexibility, again, that space to just, have it look whatever way it wants to. And now I think even more importantly, in the last several years, there are books that I have read 10 times or more because I realize we can fool ourselves into thinking, oh, yeah, yeah, I read that book.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, 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 I read that. Oh, yeah, yeah, I know the premise of that one. Right? Everybody's talking about it. I kind of I know what's in there. I don't really need to read it. But it's about reading books not just to for the knowledge, it's actually reading a book and then applying it to my life.
Mm.
There's a difference between, right, knowing something intellectually and actually living our life that way. So, this also started as part of that 5 a.m. club, this other challenge I happened to be doing at the time. It was called 75 Hard. And part of that challenge was every morning to read at least 10 pages of something inspiring. And that really spoke to me because, again, it sets the tone. Going back to our morning routine, it sets the tone for the day. I want to read something positive. I want to read something that's,
Mhm.
right, going to inspire me for my day. So that also drives me just as part of that routine to put something in that's rich. Yeah. So I love books. I do eat them for breakfast.
So, just what you said there, it resonates most with me is around spending time with something that inspires you in the morning, sets the tone for the day, even if that's 10 minutes of reading or 15 minutes of reading or 10 pages. And the other thing that I love that you said, books are so connected to our growth. And knowing something doesn't mean that we're actually in practice. Those are very different. And we also evolve. So as we grow and evolve, so do our practices. So I love that you come back to books to say, like, what's today most resonant for me and who I want to be and how I show up in my practice or what I embody. And maybe that leads me to reading a book 10 times because it's so in my foundation, but the evolved version of me and what I embody might look a little bit different today.
Absolutely.
Super
I think this
cool.
is where embodiment begins, is to take all of the knowledge. We all have a lot of knowledge. We all know a lot of things intellectually. Does not mean we're practicing them. Does
Mm.
not mean we're doing them. And that leads to that internal dialogue of like, oh yeah, yeah, you know a lot doesn't mean you're doing it, right? So that imposter syndrome, that,
Mm.
I'm a fraud, and who am I to guide anyone if I'm not over here doing the things I know I should be doing, right? Or I know that are going to enrich my life. So
Wow.
yeah, put it into practice. That's the first step with embodiment. Who do you want to be?
Well, let's take this conversation right into the best, which is from head to heart.
Mm.
So many of us spend our days leading from the head in thought, in decision making, and strategy. We're often on autopilot. We are in a loop. And when we work together, one of my biggest transformations was learning to actually sense when I was in my head and when I was in my heart or when I am in my heart. It's like head and this thing, heart, it's body. This is something that I now have in my foundation that I also work with others on. So, how do you know when you are in your head? And how do you know when you are in your heart, in your body?
Mm.
And what might also be common with people that you work with that are themes that might resonate?
Hmm. Great question. So It's experiential, first of all. So what feels to me in my heart and in my head might be different for you or anyone. So the invitation, again, to just get curious with ourselves first. How do I know? How does it feel when I'm in my head, when I'm overthinking, when I'm overanalyzing, which, as you said, is where most of us spend our time? And versus getting present, allowing myself to check in, whether it's in grounding or meditation or in
Mm,
a moment, taking a deep breath. There's lots of ways that we can get present, but we have to be present to
mm,
actually be connected to the heart. So I think presence is the first key. And how do I know when I'm present? Because that feels a particular way. Because when I get present, this sort of quiets down. I just get
mm.
very, I don't know. It's like there's like a vibration to it there, and there's an expansion. I like to say there's a feeling of expansiveness versus when I'm in my head and everything sort of seems, very myopic and limited. So to me, I know when I'm in my heart, when I have that sense of everything is just open and yeah, there's nothing blocking. And then the second piece, you asked me something about what I come into contact with clients around this.
Yes.
It's, yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's, when we're really present, we're actively listening to our clients, we can, you can sense, there's things people say, mostly, I don't know, I have no idea. This sense of just, again, like everything's gone out of their brain. Okay, so who doesn't know? You absolutely do know when you are connected to the self. The self has everything it needs. The self has every single answer to every single thing you could ever want. So those are sort of telltales for me when, there's a sense of confusion or like a deer in the headlights kind of, where you realize you're talking to a mind, you realize you're interacting with a program. And you got to check yourself because it's like, is my program speaking to their program? So we also have to remind ourselves to get present before we even, you know, maybe say that to them. Like, I sense you're in your head right now. You want to make sure that you're not in yours.
Honestly, I think it is one of the best things when you have someone that you can work with. This could be a friend, it's a coach, a therapist, a mentor. When someone can say to you that they sense that you're in your head, when you aren't able to sense that for yourself, is so incredibly powerful.
Well, and I have the best coach ever in the world who does that so skillfully that that's where I learned it from. And, it's confronting. You're
Mm,
confronting a mind, you're confronting a program that does not want to change a thing.
mm,
So you got to be really committed to want to change someone's, you know, awareness. And that's the job. This is the work we get to do. We want to, remind people when they forget that they are conscious beings, that they are, presence is where you access the self, where you access that divine intelligence that actually can guide us every moment. But that takes awareness, that takes presence, that takes practice. It's not a overnight, it's not a one and done. This is years and years and years and years of practice or, discipline, creating that discipline. So yes, I agree. It can feel confronting. And sometimes you will
mm,
have those experiences with clients where maybe you say something and it's like they're not ready to hear it, or the mind is still doing what it knows how. It's gonna try to protect itself.
mhm.
Okay. So it takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of
Yeah,
rapport too with your clients. So yeah, people like you, that you and I, when we worked together, I knew you trusted me and then I had the space to be able to call you
yeah.
out on some of those things. But that doesn't always happen, right? That's because I know who you are as an aware
Mhm.
being. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's so much goodness in what you just said. And I also think for like as you're working with someone, there's so much like space in there to hold, like no judgment or evaluation when we're in our head. By the way, that's humanity. We live in our heads. We're biologically live in our heads. Like, so no judgment or evaluation. When we say that, and also the power of knowing when you're in your own head, and that relationship that you create with with yourself, to be able to call on your head when you're in it and you recognize that. Similar to what you're talking about when you're working with someone, or when you've called me on, like, hey, I think you're up. I think you're up here. And I'm like, how do you know that? Right. But I can now for myself, I'm like, I know what that feels like, to be able to like be up here so that I can call that. So for those of you that experience, this is for those of you that experience like stress and anxiety, overwhelm, burnout, there's some head energy that comes with that. And oh, by the way, we all experience stress. So I mean, it's all of us, right? So for me, when I notice, so before I started working with Micole, right? Before I was working with you, I didn't I don't know that I didn't have the present awareness to say this is actually what this feels like. So this isn't evolved me to say I know what this actually feels like. It feels tight. It feels congested. It feels
Mhm.
foggy. Um, it might feel heavy. And I remember in a session, I remember telling you my head feels like a bowling ball. And you were like, they actually weigh a lot, like a physical head.
Yeah.
And from an energy perspective, like head energy is up. And I heard you talking about when you're in your heart, it feels expansive and grounded. Like it feels expansive, right? There's nothing in the way of it. And that's what it feels like for me too. When you're in your heart, it's expansive and grounded. And head energy feels up. And I have two beautiful mentors that were talking about head energy, and it connected for me. Head energy is air. It's up in your body. It's where you're holding your energy. And what we naturally like don't realize that we might naturally need, like we're not aware of it, is head energy's up. And what I want to do is actually get in, right? I want to move that energy down. What I most need in those moments is earth, grounding, feeling into my body. And then all of a sudden I have this like big like light bulb moment that says, of course my life work is getting back into my body and grounding because I have a lot of head energy. So it's just interesting how it all connects together.
Mhm.
So kind of a felt sense in your head. If you can notice and be aware of that, it's really good signal so that you can interrupt it.
Yeah, and going back to the heart is where the self, that energetic being within all of us, resides. So that's another telltale in a coaching session. If someone's looking up for the answers, I love that you said that the head is up. So we're looking up like out here for the answers to things like outside of ourselves. And what you said, to be grounded, to go within, the answers are within. And so that we all do get heady and out here. And so those practices to bring us back
Mm.
down and to connect at the heart is so important. Again, going back to daily commitments to meditation and breath and movement and the things that ground us.
Yes, 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 and yes. It's an invitation for curiosity. Like, a big invitation for curiosity. And actually, as I was thinking about this conversation with you, something popped up for me that maybe that is a really simple example of our like being in our bodies and in our head.
Mm.
When there's music on, I don't play the air guitar. Some people play the air guitar. I'm I'm like an air tapper or a foot tapper. And I can um without me, like if that music is connected to me in my rhythm, I'm actually like tapping in rhythm. What I notice is when I recognize that I'm tapping in rhythm, my head gets engaged. My head starts thinking about I'm tapping in rhythm. And then all of a sudden, I'm out of rhythm because I've moved from my body into my head. So my rhythm is off. It's such an interesting thing. It's just a small example, but like just a really good example of how we can move from our bodies to our heads. But you know, my head gets engaged and now I'm not in rhythm anymore.
I love that. Again, just being curious with yourself and experimenting with these things. How do you know? And it's different for everyone. Again, as you said, we're all unique. We're all the same and we're all individuals at the same time. So you want to know these things for yourself, not what someone else told you this is like, or that's why it's so important to have the knowledge, have the information, but then you want to have the experience
Mhm.
to go with it.
Yeah, it's perfect. So, as we're talking about as we've talked about radiant rhythm, this is a great place for resonance and just thinking about what resonance looks like between our inner and outer alignment. So, for those of you that are listening to this, this is a great place just to check in with yourself. What resonates with you from this section? What do you notice? What stands out to you? What does it feel like for you when you're in your head, when your heart in your heart? I think expansion in the heart and constriction in the head is probably expansion and constriction is a common way that people kind of get a feeling for the difference. Well, let's talk about embodiment and leadership. Hmm.
Right.
So let's talk about why embodiment matters in leadership.
Mm.
What changes when we lead from our heart or our body? I like to say heart centered. What changes when we lead from a heart centered place, not just from this beautiful thing that we have that does so much work for us, our head, our mind, our brain?
Yeah, well, I think it goes back to what I said earlier and what I like to teach in companies, right, is about conscious leadership. This is about connecting to our consciousness first. And so getting out of our head and into our hearts, where that consciousness, that conscious being resides. When we lead from that place, there's more clarity, more creativity, solutions to problems, right? Or there's infinite possibilities. Einstein said we can't solve a problem from the same level of consciousness in which it was created. So to do that, again, it requires this alignment and to realign with the self, that consciousness, that piece, uh, that is divinely guided, that we all have. And so for some people, they might call it something different: spirit, soul, consciousness. There's lots of ways to put it. So again, finding for yourself what that looks like for you. But when we lead from that place, there's an energy. This, we how we're being is different. We show up differently in the world than when we come from our head and analyzing and wanting to have the right answer, and you know trying to lead people from a place of
Mhm.
intellect or ideas. So to lead with our energy, I think that's what embodiment in leadership looks like. How am I showing up? How and you and I talked about this, Erin. I think
Mhm.
it's we can think of leadership, with teams and in our work
Yeah.
and within companies, but it truly comes down to being a leader in our own life. We are all leaders in our own lives. So where am I over here outsourcing again, I have the answers to everything I need within me, and yet I look outside of myself, or many people look outside of themselves for answers and advice and for solutions instead of first checking in with themselves or taking it out into the field of pure potential and saying, "Here, I'm turn it over to you for the answer," and then not knowing when that might arise, but trusting that it will. That's a different way to be in the world, and that's a skill, and that takes again a practice of every day connecting to that source. And how
Mhm.
does it feel to be in my heart? Well, when I'm in my heart, it's expansive because I'm connecting to the self, which is expansive. Consciousness is there's no limits, there's no bounds. That's a different experience altogether. Did I answer the question?
Yes. So beautiful. Yes. Embody deepens our connection to our inner wisdom. Our inner leader is what I like to say, that that place inside of us, that our inner knowing. And there's also science that supports this too. I love your Einstein quote. If you are listening and you've heard of interoception, that's also like the awareness of our internal body signals. Um, it's we when we can sense our body cues, and when we can do that, we can also regulate emotions more effectively. So as leaders, when we are regulated and we feel safe, grounded, and creative, we create the environment for those same things, which I hear you talking about, for safety, for connection, for creativity, and for growth. So then we can lead and respond with empathy and compassion, curiosity, courage, clarity, that safety or that inner embodiment or that inner leader when we're leading from our hearts that actually radiates outward. So that helps to shape teams and cultures. And we'll talk more about that. Just maybe something for like just something for reflection in this section for everyone. What if leadership isn't about what we do, but how we deeply tune into ourselves, to others, and the unseen rhythms that actually guide our connections?
Mhm. Yeah, it's reminding me too of coherence.
Mm,
In quantum physics, it is a science that, the heart has its own frequency. And so when we practice connecting to the heart and knowing when we're connected to our heart, that, as you said, it generates outward. And then the practice can become to connecting this to this so that our
mm,
thoughts actually are coming from the heart. That's the ideal, to create from that place of coherence. So, and again, it's a practice. Right. We gotta align all of the chakras and be grounded and centered in order to do that, and to practice giving it that attention. How do I know when they're coherent? What's that feeling like? Yeah, powerful.
yes, heart coherence, for those of you listening, is a thing. It is it's a beautiful thing. I like to say it's a stretchy thing that, we're always evolving and paying attention and being present to you, and knowing that what that feels like for us. All
And
right,
there's
so go ahead.
there's an organization called Heart Math too,
Mm.
where they've studied this, and there's tools you can actually measure the coherence. It's fascinating.
We might have to come back to a whole episode on coherence.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There's lots of books and lots of audibles around it too.
So as we just think about practices that help us reconnect to our body, let's bring this into a practical space on how to get started. So, what are few of the small ways that you return to connection during the day?
Breath. Breath is the one thing that, and it could be stopping and taking a deep breath or three. It can look like going to breath work. I
Mm,
like to go for breath work and then a cold plunge in a sauna, and for like a reset every week. Using the breath, you can't be focused on your breath and be thinking about anything else at the same time. So it's actually the greatest way to connect in the moment. So yes, meditation bookends our day, and then throughout the day, as we notice ourselves getting heady or
mhm.
out of alignment, then to take breaths to recenter, to reground. And so many 2-minute meditations, grounding sessions, and all my coaching sessions and meetings, and just making sure people are meeting at the same place, because usually we come into all these meetings and everybody's out here and has their own different agenda. So to connect groups like that is powerful too, that the power of the collective grounding.
Yeah, that's beautiful for me too. Breath's really, really important. And sometimes some fresh air can help me also just kind of recenter and get connected back into my body, um, especially if there is some warmth from the sun that I can find as we're headed into the cold season. For you, those of you who live in warmer climates, that might be a little bit easier. But I like that you said your practices or your rituals or whatever you call that for yourself, your routines. Those help you be able to stay in it, and then there are moments during the day where coming back to breath or whatever works for you. If you whatever if you notice a constriction moment somewhere in your body or something like that, just being able to get present again. Our bodies tell us, they're always communicating what
Yeah,
they
and for
need.
me too, working from home, getting outside for a 10-minute, 20-minute, 30-minute walk every day, just to again get outside and look up and remind ourselves of the expansiveness
Hmm.
that is all around us, because we get into our computer screens and our phones, and we get like this. So any opportunity, and then being out in nature is a reminder of that, that is who we are. So the sunshine and the cool air or the warmth or whatever that is, it's just connecting to everything that we already are. It's very
Yeah.
powerful.
So we both have a connection into like some of these bigger visions and how we embody those. I use my vision board every day when I help guide other people to create these vision boards that are really thoughtful and intentional and full of felt sense. So for me, I put things on there that I can look at a picture, and after spending time with my vision board every day, I can look at one of the images on there or one of the quotes or one of the words, and I can actually feel that in my body. Like, what does that feel like? And I know I asked those questions all the time. We have phrases, or we like tell people about wholeness or things like that. I'm always asking, what does that actually feel like in your body? So for me, my vision board is a way to be able to say, for me to be able to say, what do I want to embody, like as I'm stretching towards the future? You just took a trip to Paris, and I thought we could just spend a couple minutes on it because when you came back, well, actually, while you were there and you were sharing, and then when you came back, something shifted for you. And when I was looking at your Paris photos, you became Paris. So I thought this would be a good place just for us to talk about embodying bigger visions and dreams and what that looks like.
One of my favorite topics. Yeah, that was a vision. That was a dream that I had, to have a photo shoot in Paris. So the last 3 summers I've actually visited. This last one, I was there the longest. I was there for 3 weeks. And my goal, my intention of that going for 3 weeks was to feel more like I lived in Paris, to, not be a tourist, to just, embody, right, what that would feel like. And so part of that was to have this photo shoot and just feel like a supermodel and, have my hair and makeup done. And like I had the whole thing, right? I could see it. And then to have lived it, yes, I came back and I've been like a flurry of Paris photos all over my Instagram, and it's been so much fun. And I've been experimenting with that too. But it was less about like, oh, look at me in Paris, and look at me, look at me. It's really the energy and the excitement of what that was like to have that experience after I had had the vision for so long. And so I encourage, I think as we get older, we have a tendency to not allow ourselves to have these dreams and have these
Mm.
visions of ourselves doing amazing things. And this was just one of the visions I've had come true in the last so many years. But this is the most recent and the most, I'm still just vibrating from it, you can see. And then that translates, or did translate at the time to the vision I had for using the pictures and creating what's next in my business, and up leveling myself and embodying a different version of me that I want to come through in everything I'm now sharing, which is I have a new website coming. And right, so it starts with that one vision, but then it just bleeds into everything else. And I've said to you, Erin, and I say to people all the time, everything we do is for the experience. So what's the experience you want to have? And it's all a creation. So just, embodying that, encouraging people to have those visuals for people to see what's possible, because we
Yeah.
don't allow ourselves to dream
Mm.
and think in infinite possibility. It's just a different way to live, right? To embody this and not just talk about things.
Well, I can still tell that that is with you. It literally, like, is still radiating out of you. It's your energy. It's amazing. You all can connect with Micole to see her her photos in Paris are just brilliant in embodying a vision. Like it's yeah, I just said you were like you are Paris in those pictures. It's the
Paris
best.
embodied. I love that.
All
Yes.
right. So, as we're talking about embodying this energy, radiant embodiment and culture is next. So, when we lead from embodiment, radiating out that presence and that energy, it radiates outward. And teams and people around you. So, whether that's a team or we're all leaders in our own lives, we've said that, just people around you, people can feel it and they can sense it. And there's just a really great nervous system connection here. Um, I was on, Brene has her new book, Strong Ground. She did a Random House book club yesterday. And as I was listening, I was like, this is what I've talked about in the first episode. Polyvagal Institute talks about this. There's so many like science that talks about it. You and I are connected through Chopra. Um, and when I said in the first episode that we are a sea of nervous systems strung together, when we as leaders don't feel safe, we don't feel grounded, we don't feel stable, other people can feel that energy. It's an energy field that people connect to and that they can feel, and that can be contagious. So when we feel safe and grounded and centered, that energy also can be felt. One of the greatest things we can do in life is our own work. Because when we do our own work, and I think Deepak has a beautiful quote about like like greatest like work that we can do on behalf of the world is to be able to be present with
Sri
ourselves.
Sri Ramana Maharshi too. It's about self-realization.
Mm.
The best gift we can give to human nature is our own self-realization. and Paramahansa Yogananda, and right, goes on for centuries. So yeah,
Yeah.
Deepak has packaged it in a way too. And
Yeah.
these things have been, this messaging has been around forever.
Yes. Part of the ancient wisdom that is with us. And that impact is felt both internally and externally. So, as we think about collective regulation, the nervous system is really leadership in motion. So, this brings up a topic of accountability, which I know is one of your favorite words. It's accountability to ourselves and those we lead. So, maybe just share a couple thoughts in that space.
Mhm. Yeah. So again, something I learned from my coach about accountability, and how accountability is what I know I was taught is to be accountable to other people mostly, right? If I tell somebody I'm going to do something, I keep my word to them, and then I look good and I avoid looking bad. But really, accountability is being our word to ourselves. Our relationship with ourselves is the most important one. And so shifting the dialogue, you know, to be accountable to myself first, because when I'm accountable to myself first, then, like you said, that energy of living in accountability, that actually has an effect then on your willingness to hold others accountable.
Mm,
So it bleeds out, right? It starts over here. It's actually not an external thing, as most of us have been taught. So to start to practice, if I say I'm going to do something, right? Commitment, first of all, what are you committed to? And then what does that look like, right? To what's the practice or the discipline that I want to get into around that? And then being my word. If I say it's happening, it's happening. So then I can start to relate to myself as someone that is their word. And that's a way of being, when you are being that you are your word, because that's all we have actually at the end of the day. But we don't relate to ourselves like that. It's like, oh yeah, especially with ourselves. I made this commitment to myself to get to the gym today. And then some other preference of the moment came up and I changed plans, but nobody knows. It's just me, right? It's just my word to me. Okay, we do that over and over and over again. And then that dialogue is, I can't be trusted. Who should listen to me? I'm over here breaking my promises all day long. Right. So it just so affects our dialogue and our self
mm,
esteem and self, our vision for who we are in the world. So it's such a powerful tool. Accountability is huge.
mm.
Yeah. I could go on and on.
Yes. Accountability for ourselves, and also like that translates to accountability out in the world. So, embodiment is really the bridge of inner alignment and also from a transformational perspective to the people around us, whether that's in systems and organizations, whatever that looks like. So just press pause on this part of the conversation. I know that we have a couple minutes left. So I want you to be able to have time to share, like, what's your reveal on your new work?
Thank you for that. Again, I'm so excited. Today, in fact, I launched my new website, which has been in the works for the last couple of months, and even before, right? I've had this vision since the summertime, and probably even before that, when I was in India earlier this year as well. It's really been a vision of mine, just to rebrand everything. I've needed to do this for quite some time, so now everything is in one place, which I have felt like my things have kind of been all out and everywhere. So making that commitment to myself to get these, more systems and more a clear message out to the world about what I'd love to do, and that's coaching. It's leading companies. It's leading retreats. It's sharing content. It's inviting people to challenge themselves, to get curious, to, how can we avoid burnout? There's this whole hustle culture that we've bought into, that I'm just in the spirit of wanting to disrupt, again, be provoking and provocative enough to say, to interrupt these patterns, as we said, that people just get stuck in these ways of thinking that just aren't them. So I'm really passionate about it. I'm super excited about it. And I just feel like first of all, the website, then I have programs that are coming and different ways that you'll be able to engage with me. So just super excited. And to match the stuff on social that I've been putting out there is just kind of experimenting with this, new version of myself. I just feel it all coming together. So I'm super, super excited. So it's just my name, MicoleNoble.com, right? Easy to find. Would love feedback. I mean, obviously we're just getting the site out today. There will be other things coming out. So yeah, can't wait to share with you all.
So beautiful, and we can't wait to see it.
Thank you,
See
Erin.
it and engage with it.
Yes,
I'm sure it'll be full of felt sense and embodiment um, as the outward outcomes. So, yeah, super beautiful. So we next we're going to head into our reflective segment, which is to recap the reflection takeaways and home practice from today. Micole, I just want to first, before we do that, say thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, for joining me, for being my OC guest too, by the way, for your grounded presence and your radiant light that you brought with you and shared with us. Thank you.
thank you, Erin, really, for inviting me. I'm so proud of you. Honestly, this takes a
Mm.
lot of courage to get this out in the world, and you're doing such a beautiful job. So, to support you, to be able to be here with you, and also share about what I'm excited about and what I'm up to, has just been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, super great, and I'm sure we'll find I'm sure we'll find a pod continued together.
I
So
love that.
thank you, and for those of you listening, we're going to move into just recapping your home practice around reflection.
Are you stopping the recording?
Okay, so let's take a minute to pause and reflect. For this segment of reflection, because we just came through embodiment, this is a great place to be able to hit pause and do this reflection from a place of feeling. How does it feel? um, Trying to come through this reflection from a heart centered perspective, and not just from this beautiful thing that we have that helps us think through and problem solve. So I'm going to ask you to be in a place of your body and be able to just really be heart centered in a felt sense. So that may mean if you're on the go, you might come back to this part of the segment, or if you're out in nature taking a walk, this is a perfect time to be able to just put some reflective thought into these questions, and then you can come back and journal it. Or if you're in a space right now that you can close your eyes or lower your gaze, if that's better for you, then this will be a good time to be in this reflection now. So here's some of the questions to carry with you. What resonates most with you from this conversation that we just had? What resonates most with you from this conversation? It's going to look a little bit different for each person. So, most important, what resonates with you? And then for some felt sense, what does it feel like when you're centered and grounded? When you feel full in your heart? So, what does it feel like when you're centered and grounded and you feel full in your heart? And then the third question is around visualizing a time when you felt at your best, at your peak. Connect to that felt sense. Remember, felt sense is something that you have an inner feeling. It's some feeling that you kind of carry with you. You may not always have words for it. What is that felt sense? What does it feel like in your body? So, a time when you were at your best, your peak, connect to that felt sense. What does it feel like in your body? Where do you feel that in your body? And then you can also use a question around visualizing a decision that you made when it felt effortless. Where did you feel that? What does that feel like in your body? And then visualize a decision when you felt stuck, when you were in your head, or you had a spin on, or you felt like you were stuck and it felt really heavy to make a decision. Where did you feel that? What did that feel like in your body? So, when a decision felt effortless, where did you feel that? What does that feel like in your body? And then a decision when you felt stuck, uh, or it was kind of heavy to move through that decision. Where did you feel that? And what did that feel like in your body? And then what can you explore and experiment with to pause and tune in to your felt sense in your body? Maybe that's part of your morning practice. Maybe that is as you are in the shape of your day or your week. Maybe that's just in a moment. So, what can you explore or experiment with just to hit pause and connect in to your felt sense or what things feel like in your body in the moment? What small action could help you return there more often? Okay, those are our reflection questions from this episode. And I just want to thank you all for listening. Thank you for tuning in, both literally and energetically, in this episode. Remember that your presence is your power. So when we lead from embodiment, we don't just inspire, we resonate. I'm Erin Johnson Gerkman. This has been The Radiant Leader. Together, let's turn our lights together, let's turn our lights back on. Until next time, much love and gratitude.